All I have are negative thoughts. No, just kidding, actually. I have a lot of positive thoughts about the Joker movie that I just saw. Now, I just want you to imagine for a moment that, like, you're a very cynical person, and you see a trailer, that you didn't ask for because it pops up as an ad on a YouTube video. And then you think, oh, well, that actually looks kind of interesting. I'm not going to click skip like I do with most trailers, not the skip. I'll just finish watching that. Oh, that's pretty good. Actually, let me Google that. Let me look that up. Oh, a new movie. It's about the Joker. Joaquin Phoenix. Yeah, I thought that was him. He's pretty good. He's pretty good. I'll probably catch that when it comes out in the fall. Yeah, I'll still be around then. Yeah, okay. And then, like, you watch every trailer you see, you watch, like, trailer analysis, and then you find yourself, like, walking over to the theater and look at it. Oh, okay, it comes out, like, 2 days from now. Okay, I'll watch it. You're looking forward to it, and then you're thinking, oh, well, I'm really looking forward to this. Last time that happened was a Star Wars movie. Oh, dear. This is going to be horribly disappointing, isn't it? But I have to watch it because it might be good. I mean, none of the trailers have any, like, warning signs in them. And I don't know how you can make a bad movie with that trailer, because the footage in that trailer looks like it definitely came from a good movie. And, I mean, the plot kind of writes itself based on what I see in the trailer there, so. And you go, and you buy your tickets, and it's like there's only 2 seats left in the theater. Like, you show up, like, more than an hour early, but you can only choose between, like, well, there's, like, 3 seats. One of them is horrible, and there's, like, 2 that are, like, a normal person might take left, and all of the rest of the seats are sold. So, like, oh, popular, okay. Pick one of the 2 seats that's not horrible, and then you sit down, before everyone else, but pretty soon, everyone's in the theater. Like, not one empty seat anywhere in sight. Like, you look around a little bit just in case. It's like, no, I see no empty seats here. Like, literally the exact opposite of my experience when I watched Rogue One, where I was literally the only person in the theater for that. Like, I was surprised that they went ahead with it. Like, I figure it's kind of expensive to screen IMAX 3D, and to do IMAX 3D for just one person. I mean, well, I guess you have to keep your promises, right? You sold the ticket. You can't very well say, sorry, canceled, there's only one guy here. But yeah, that's what Rogue One was like, and I didn't even get to see Solo: A Star Wars Story because they canceled it before before I had a day off work, which is like amazing because it literally didn't survive the week in the theaters in Korea. Like it literally got killed in favor of Truth or Dare. But not happening with Joker. Every seat filled, in that theater. So, well, optimistic. Movie starts, and, well, it's good. Like, it's like the perfect Joker movie. It's like the best, pretty much the best case scenario you could ever hope to get with a movie given that subject matter. I mean, my favorite movie is still Arrival, and this doesn't change that, but, this is definitely the best movie you could make with that subject matter. In fact, it's made me reappraise some of my ideas about movies, because I didn't think you could make such a good, serious, intelligent, well-scripted, well-acted, movie with this subject matter. I mean, the last movie, like, superhero-ish that I watched was Avengers Endgame, and that film was an irredeemable garbage fire that I watched only because it's my job to talk to kids in English, and I want to have something besides a textbook to talk about. So I watched Avengers Endgame. I was like, how bad could it be? It's a popular... Oh! It was a garbage... But this is not a review of Avengers Endgame. The Joker is a really good movie. It's not for children, unfortunately. I'm not actually going to get to talk to my kids about it that much. There's some very brutal violence in it. Like, if you played Far Cry games, you won't be shocked by it, but there's some very brutal, realistic violence. I'm actually glad they made that choice, because I hate it when movies are all casual about violence against human beings. Like, it's just, oh, I shot them with a magic, taser that makes them go to sleep and with a little bit of red spurt out, but it's okay. So I'm glad they took that route, because if you're going to have stories with killing people in them, which, you know, spoilers, there's killing people in this story, big surprise. But if you're going to make that kind of story, I feel like it should be impactful, it should feel like it matters, and it shouldn't just be something that happens for filler. And yeah, there's no violence for filler in this movie. There is some violence in the movie. It's very brutal. It's not filler. It's treated as very impactful. There are most definitely consequences for every act of violence in the movie. It's very serious and mature that way. Like, I honestly did not see this coming. It's also something I was a little bit worried about, though honestly my BS detector went off ahead of time, was this idea that's been circulated that maybe this is like a movie for like entitled white men who want to go out and kill people, maybe incels, or, you know, whatever, you know, bogeyman of the week is. I mean, there are real frightening, awful incels like that guy in Canada who killed 10 people with a car. But no, this is not that movie. This is not a movie for them. The message of this movie is basically that a lack of empathy has consequences, and there's something to be said for that. I mean, we as a society, and by we I mean United States, because that's where I hail from, collectively decided in the second half of the 20th century that we are going to take all of the mentally disabled people and throw them out on the streets and tell them, just take your meds, you'll be okay. And of course they're not okay. Most of them end up homeless, some of them end up dead. It's an appalling, evil thing that we did. It's almost as evil as what McNamara did, deciding to send all the mentally disabled people he could find to Vietnam to get murdered there, because, you know, I guess we're evil in how we deal with mentally disabled people, is what I'm saying. But our society is deeply evil in that regard, and this film seemed to be very much aware of that. Like, I don't know, I'm a history major, and I spent a lot of time, you know, reading about this stuff, and I was really surprised by how true to the history of that era, and that era, it means, like, this is basically set in the late 70s, roughly. But I was really surprised by how true to the history of that era this film was. Like, this was an incredibly intelligent and smart film, and plot-wise, I guess you could say it's kind of like if Taxi Driver was mixed with V for Vendetta, except that both of those movies were stupid and awful in various ways. This movie was not stupid and awful. Imagine, like, Taxi Driver mixed with V for Vendetta without any ideological fabulism, without any bizarre, you know, suspension of disbelief out the window, alternate history, and without the giant gaping plot holes, like the idea that you could just try to assassinate a presidential candidate and walk away, you know, which happens in Taxi Driver, and it was incredibly stupid. I couldn't believe how dumb that movie was in some regards. Very sympathetic protagonist. I mean, the Joker is a villain by the end of the movie, but this is the only portrayal of Joker I've ever seen where he really, really felt like a real person. I mean, you know, a lot of people like the Joker in The Dark Knight, but the Joker in The Dark Knight was kind of a mystery box, to use J.J. Abrams' notorious phrase. He seemed to be messed up, but they never gave you enough detail to make that real. And there was always, you know, when I watched that movie, I'm always like, yeah, you know, I know where they're not giving me any detail or any solid history here. It's because they don't have it. So they're just like, hey, take my word for it, he's crazy. But this was not like that. This was actually very smart. He was a fully fleshed out character. Felt like a real human being. And this movie made me cry. And that's not something I was expecting to say. Like, I did not have any tears to shed when I watched Avengers Endgame. You know, Avengers ended already for 3 hours. When that movie was finally over, I was just glad because my butt hurt, okay? I was just glad that, oh, I can stretch my legs, finally, this awful movie is over. Like, this is the first movie since Arrival, which, you know, that's like 2016, I think it is. This is the first movie since Arrival that got a real emotional reaction out of me. And I wasn't expecting that. Like, this is like, there's some scenes in here that are just incredibly poignant. And, like, real tears. Like, so, this is a great movie. This is a movie that can make a very jaded person like me, and by the way, I think Chinatown is horribly overrated. I think a lot of movies that people like are not good. Um, I think the movies people don't like are even worse, by the way. I'm not being contrarian. The movies that people don't like, those are really terrible. But even the ones people do like, I have my standards are higher than a lot of people's, is what I'm saying. But this makes it. I mean, I'm definitely buying this when it comes out, when it comes out available for, digital ownership. It's right up there with Arrival as one of my all-time favorite movies, and you wouldn't expect to see a deep, contemplative, and ultimately, very emotional film like Arrival next to Joker, something based on a franchise about a rich guy who wears a bat, who dresses up in a cape and beats up criminals. I mean, you wouldn't expect a spin-off of that to be like as deep, emotional, meaningful, contemplative film, but it is. I mean, it's better than anything with that franchise has any right to be. And by the way, I should throw this out here. I don't absolutely hate the franchise. I hate what's been done with it in recent years. Suicide Squad. um, but this is good. I mean, I actually own The Killing Joke. I thought it was okay. It's not incredible. I actually really enjoyed Batman the Animated Series, so, I mean, I'm not just like someone who's just like, I didn't expect this to be good because those are superhero movies are for nerds, and I don't condescend to that. No, actually, I like The Killing Joke okay. I mean, there are problems with it, obviously, like, the first 30 minutes of the movie. I really liked Batman the Animated Series. I loved the 1989 version of Batman, the one with Michael Keaton in it. That's a good movie. It's not incredible. It's not the best movie ever, but it's the best Batman movie ever, but the best Joker movie, which blows all Batman movies out of the water. And the Joker one, that's it. It's in now. Is definitely Joker. So, I strongly recommend check this out. I don't want to give too many spoilers. For the most part, there aren't any huge plot holes. There's a couple points in the movie where I feel like there are characters that are just acting a little bit more stupid and self-destructive than they ought to. Not the Joker, fortunately. Side characters. The Joker, in a sort of way, everything he does really makes sense, and I really like that. I really like that they don't just hand the wave away, he's crazy, it doesn't have to make sense, which is what I expected. It's what they usually do with the Joker. That's pretty much what everyone does with the Joker in this case. Everything he does makes sense, there's an internal logic to everything he does. He's the bad guy, but he's actually a very sympathetic bad guy, because the real villain in this story is just a basic lack of empathy that so many people in Gotham, the fictional city this is set in, which is just basically 1970s New York. Spoilers, it's 1970s New York. But the real villain in this movie is the city. And if there's a message to this movie, it's that, it's that a lack of empathy has consequences. Everyone who dies in this movie has it coming, somehow or other. And I like that, because I don't like stories where people who, Arrival, someone dies who doesn't have it coming, but that's tragic and deeply moving. But I like the fact that that there's a karmic aspect to this, and it's not casual about killing people. Death is very impactful in this movie. I'm a pacifist myself, so I'm really disgusted by movies that think killing people is a great thing to do. This doesn't. This film definitely doesn't. But at the same time, it's like, I guess what comes to mind is this sentence that popped into my head. If you reject God's mercy, you'll choose His justice. And this is a story about someone who's been pushed too far, serving rough justice to specific individuals who have wronged him. This isn't a story about an incel killer going on a spree against random people who have never done anything to him, if that's what you're worried about. No. The Joker is a sympathetic character because his enemies are specific individuals, and although society is what created this bad situation, he's not just like, he doesn't go around just murdering random people or something, if that's what you're worried about. A sympathetic portrayal of that, I wouldn't watch. At least not willingly, not knowingly, and I wouldn't recommend it either. This is not that. This is a story about what happens when you don't show empathy, and I think it's a good message. It's an important message, and it's impactful. It moved me. Um, and if you're worried that it might teach your kids that violence is a good thing, it won't. Violence is strongly condemned in the movie, and including the Joker's violence, by the way. The Joker is a very understandable, fairly sympathetic character, but the movie doesn't tell you that what he's doing is good. The movie's fairly clear in that regard, especially when you see the very end of it. So, yeah, just a great movie. I put it right up there with like Arrival and like The Book Thief, which is never thought I'd be saying that, but yeah, it's good. Go ahead and watch it. God bless.